Hi, my name is Scott McGurn. This is part 2 of a book review. I don't like doing book reviews. Maybe it showed in the first video. I hope not. I'll try and show a little more enthusiasm today. What I want to do is introduce a book, A Course in Miracles. Now, when I held this up yesterday, the camera didn't catch the light. A Course in Miracles. Now I want you to understand, A Course in Miracles combined volume, okay? It's published by Foundation for Inner Peace. The reason I want to show you this is because there are other versions of it. This came out in 1975, and there are other versions out. Some of them are not as legit as this one. You want the combined volume, and don't let it put you off that they call it A Course in Miracles. That's just the name of the book. It is not a course. I repeat, it is not a course. The whole thing is in this book, alright? You can get this whole book for 10 bucks off of Amazon. If you don't want to get it off of Amazon, you can go to any bookstore and order it. It's not likely you're going to find it in a bookstore, but you can order it from any bookstore. Okay? 10 bucks. You can get a new one off of Amazon for 25, 30 bucks. Not hard to find because you order it. That's all you have to do. Okay, with that out of the way, all right, what is A Course in Miracles? Well, first of all, it's a book. It's not a course. Second of all, what's good about it? Well, there's a lot of things good about it. Most books, it's somebody has an idea and then they wrap a 300-page book around the idea. This book isn't like that, and that's what I like about it. This book was written by basically a New York City psychiatrist, atheist. She didn't like anything about spirituality. She and her partner were the top of their field. New York City psychiatric profession, Columbia University, big-time atheist, big time in the psychiatric profession. Now, why would God choose somebody like that to give a big inspiration to? Well, God always likes to choose the least likely person. Now, if you've ever heard of St. Paul, okay, he's one of the famous people. He wrote most of the New Testament. His job back in the day was to hunt down and kill all the Christians. And that's exactly what he did, and he was so good at it. He was famous. He was one of the great Christian hunters of the early days when Christians were being persecuted. He would hunt them down and kill them. He had his spiritual encounter with Jesus Christ on a day he's walking on the highway, had this big spiritual experience, went blind for the longest time, changed his life. So when he started proclaiming what God wanted him to say, it got everybody's attention. So when psychiatrist Helen Schucman suddenly had her giant spiritual experience in New York City, changed her life, she and her partner had the same, they had a shared experience. For her and her partner to come out and write a book like A Course in Miracles, that's pretty amazing. And they were able to use, because they were both university professors, use all of their skill from all of the latest science from the psychiatric profession as to how you can deprogram yourself using this self-help book to deprogram yourself from the human ego. Now, I can't describe in a 10-minute video how to deprogram yourself. It might take 20 years for you to deprogram yourself. But one of the benefits of this book is the primary benefit. The whole thing, all 1,500 pages, is repetition, how to deprogram yourself. You could use this to deprogram yourself from anything. But the focus of it is how to deprogram yourself from the human ego. There's a 360-page part of this book where you take one page a day and it gives you a different perspective. What is the ego? Why do I need to get rid of it? And how do I get in tune with the Holy Spirit instead of the ego? So the whole book is dedicated to that. Now, some people are turned off massively by the expression, the Holy Spirit. As soon as they hear anything to do with religion, this book's got nothing to do with religion. Think of the Holy Spirit as being either enlightenment or true love, because Holy Spirit, enlightenment, true love, they're all the same. Ego is the opposite, okay? If I want to go from being totally reliant on the ego, like most people are. How do I reach up to the center of God, to reach out to nature, to all good things, because they're all in complete harmony. They're all the opposite of the ego. How do I get in tune with that as my source of understanding, instead of being reliant on the ego, which is basically contrary? If my source of information is basically the ego, then the ego, if I think of the ego as being everything that comes out of my butt, okay, that's the ego. If I want all information to come out of my butt, then I rely on the ego. The ego is contrary. The ego believes in division. The ego wants to belittle everybody else, raise myself up, and the comparison between my sense of the other person and me, that sense of superiority that the ego wants, that's what the ego is all about. It's all about separation, being better than the next person. That is what the ego is all about. Now, rather than try and rehash this from beginning to end, I want you to know that I produced a 5-part series with the help of my cameraman here, Mr. Malone. We produced a 5-part series starting with Trump's ego and the meaning of life. That was the first one. Now, the reason I use Donald Trump as a case study of the ego is because we know who he is. He's very proud of his ego. He puts it out there so we can see it. Now, he doesn't realize that everything he's doing, by being so ego-based, he's actually going down the evolutionary ladder instead of up. But this makes him a perfect case study. With all of his experience and all the years he's spent making deals and living in this world, nobody really gave him the heads up. And if they did, he wouldn't listen, because the ego doesn't listen. The ego wants to talk. The ego will talk incessantly as a defense mechanism. The ego will go through life without really hearing anything. The ego doesn't realize that it's in listening that we actually might learn something. The ego won't do that. The ego believes it knows everything already. Okay? You've probably known a lot of people like that. Now, I was at a restaurant today having a conversation with Mr. Malone here, and we're talking about what's the difference between values and other things. Because if you ask the average person on the street, particularly a young person, what are your values? Well, first of all, they won't know. Then second of all, they'll probably say, well, values are like morals, and they'll try and tell you what their morals are. Okay, values and morals are two separate things, and maybe I'm supposed to mention that today. Values are what we value most. The ego values money, property, status, really status, and empty gratification. These are the 4 values of the ego. So for 99% of the population, those are their values. They might not admit that. They'll try and say, well, my values, and that maybe they'll say, well, my morals are, and they might point to a wall hanging they have in their living room. Could be the 10 Commandments. Could be that the wall hanging is on nice material and the color of the material matches the curtains and the sofa, so they have it up there, so this makes them look good. It gives them a better status. If somebody asks them about their morals, they can point to that, you know. Yeah, I believe in that, but they don't value that, okay? What they value are these 4 things. These are their values. They have the 10 Commandments up on their wall. Those are morals. Those are ancient laws. They can point to it. They can say they value it, but they don't give it any thought. Our values are what we think about. Our values are what we chase after. Our values are different. Now, a bad person or a selfish person can still have some kind of morality. They can have a code they live by. They can have morality. A bad person will say, you know, son, if you're playing cards and you make a bet, you don't welch on that bet. If I don't want to catch you gambling, but if you did and you made a bet and you welched on it, son, I'm going to beat your brains up, because you got to learn, okay? We got morals in this family. You make a bet, You don't welch on that bet, you make good on it. It's like having a job, son. If somebody gives you money to do a job, you do the job because that's the right thing to do. If I find out somebody paid you to do a job, you took the money but didn't do the job, I'm going to beat your brains out, son, because I want you to have morals. Now, in a way, the Father's right. Because whether you're a good person or a bad person, it is true that morality, if you make a bet and you lose the bet, you got to pay up. If you take money for doing a job, you got to do the job. You don't have to like the job. If you didn't like it, you shouldn't take the money. You've already taken the money, well, you got to do the job. That is morality. But morality and values are two separate things. Your values are what you think about all the time. They are the things that you value. What you value, those are your values, okay? Now, you might ask me, okay, Scott, what does the Course in Miracles mean to you? Why do you value it? All right, that's a good question. I see myself as an eternal being passing through my human experience, okay? Why would I need to wake up from the dream? Because getting rid of the ego is like waking up from a nightmare, waking up from a dream. Why do I value the notion of waking up from the dream? I could just sit here, learn nothing, chase after the four things the ego wants me to chase after. I could get reincarnated 100 times and be stuck, learning nothing, chasing after things that have no value at all, things I can't take with me when I leave here anyway. When I die, I go to a false ego-based heaven and get reincarnated here again. Why would I not just want to stay here forever, suffering in all manner of grief, telling myself that I like it? Why would I want to wake up from the dream? Well, I think of that as being self-explanatory, okay? Since I was a kid, my biggest fear is that of getting reincarnated and having to do this again. I don't feel like I want to be here in the first place, and the worst thing anybody could ever do to me would be to cause me to have to be here for one more lifetime. Okay, I want to evolve. I want to carry on. I understand the fact that if I'm having the human experience, which I consider to be very much a remedial experience, okay, whatever I did to deserve this, I don't want to do it again. I want to learn whatever it is I need to learn so that I can escape from this dream forever. Forever, okay? Priority number one. That's what I value. Numero uno. Get me out of here, all right? Get me out of this burning building experience, this nightmare of humanity where we got war, we got famine, everybody's trying to undercut everybody else, everything we've been told since the day we were born is a lie, we got assholes for parents, we got a crummy society, and everything we're told to value is worth nothing. I want to get out of the dream. I want to get out of the dream, and that's why I value A Course in Miracles. It's a tool we can use to deprogram ourselves. There is no other book that teaches us self-deprogramming, specifically of the human ego. That's why I value A Course in Miracles. Now, when we did the 5-part series on human ego versus Holy Spirit, enlightenment, whatever you call it, we did that from scratch, okay? So if you go back to the video, Trump's Ego and the Meaning of Life, that begins a 5-part series essentially explaining everything that A Course in Miracles would try to teach you, but it's done not from the perspective of Holy Spirit versus ego. I try to take it from true love because I'm guessing a person who hears that, somebody I don't know, they've never heard of A Course in Miracles, they don't want to, okay? I do it from scratch. What's the difference between true love and ego? Why is true love better than selfish ambition, which is self-defeating? What is the difference between those two things? I juxtapose those two things against each other. I do it from scratch, assuming that the viewer knows nothing, all right? That is the best way to communicate the difference between those things. This isn't about a course that some New York City psychiatrist wrote. This is about life. This is about you. This is about me. Okay? So go back if you wish to. Watch Trump's Ego, The Meaning of Life, and the 4 follow-up videos. That'll tell you more about everything that you could find in a Course of Miracles, a Course in Miracles. That'll explain it from the standpoint of somebody who knows nothing about it. Because it's not about a book, it's about life, it's about us. What did I do to get punted down into this world? What is it I have to learn? What is it I have in common with the worst people in the world and the best? Because they're me and I'm them, okay? If I don't learn, I don't escape the dream. I cannot wake up from the dream until I can learn from it. Forgive everybody for everything, because everybody in this dream is me, okay? They're variations of me. Learn everything I can, accept it for what it is. It's all me. It's all a part of me, good and bad. I have to accept it, forgive all the things in this world that I created. Forgive all things, because in doing so I've forgiven myself, okay? I have to accept the fact that all good things, all life everywhere, all love flows through me constantly 24/7. If I can't accept that, then I'm never going to wake up from the dream. I have to deprogram myself completely from the human ego. And A Course in Miracles as a book, wow, best, most useful book I've ever found in regard to deprogramming myself and letting go of the ego. I hope you find it just as valuable for you. There are, I'm sure, other books that are valuable. I'll share those too at a future time. But for now, I've shared with you why the book called A Course in Miracles has been useful to me. So thank you very much for watching this. I hope you do go back and watch the 5-part series if you haven't already. Maybe you'll subscribe and share it with your friends, because subscribing shares it. It spreads it around the world. YouTube will spread it around the world if we get enough subscribers. Maybe you can hit the subscribe button. My name is Scott McGurn. Thank you for your time.